Hey guys, and welcome to this edition of the Pagnotta Take on Sports. The last time that we did this show, we had some more people that were alive with us. So it's been we know it's been a while. It's been about what, 2 months?
2 months.
So hopefully we'll be able to do this more often. School has kind of kept us from doing this, but today we are back with our sort of mid-season report. It's a little bit after mid-season for college football, but we're going to take a look at some of the surprising teams, some of the disappointing teams, and we'll also give you our playoff predictions right now as well as our Heisman predictions. So, as you guys know, usually when I do the college football previews and everything like that, I have my buddy Josh Marlowe here with me. He is here again today. So, why don't we jump right into it? We'll start with our surprise teams, and the one that we kind of both unanimously decided was our surprise team was Temple. That was the biggest surprise so far. They're ranked 21st in the country. They beat Penn State by, well, how bad they beat them again? It was
I don't know how bad, but I think they sacked Hackenberg 10 times.
It was actually 10 times.
They blew them out in the second half of that football game.
I mean, right now they're one of, that's right, 3 undefeated teams.
Yeah, from the American.
From the American Conference. So that conference that had, its bid removed from it and everything, once Louisville left, they basically thought that conference would be shut down and everyone was just going to move to the MAC or something. All of a sudden, that conference has become better than maybe even the ACC at this point. It's pretty nuts.
There's some quality teams. So.
Yeah, they're really growing. So, what do you think about Temple so far this season? What made?
Well, I mean, they're 7-0 for the first time ever.
Around a long time too.
I think last year was the first time they played. It was something like 1941. They played in such a huge game or something that they were 6-0 for the first time since 1941 after last week.
Yeah.
And then now they're 7-0 for the first time ever. They play in a top 25 matchup, which they've hardly ever done that. So there's been a lot of positive things. Matt Rule's done a really good job building off of what Al Golden did before he went to Miami.
Oh yeah, they've really built that program up. The last couple of coaches that have been in there have made that program extremely relevant now.
Yeah.
So
I mean, Steve Adazio, he's also from there now. He's at Boston College.
Did a great job.
So they're 7-0. They play Notre Dame. And that's college football royalty as much as you can get with Notre Dame coming into Philadelphia. Game days there. It's a night game.
Place is sold out.
Sold out.
And I mean that's
it's a Halloween
NFL
night, so there's So who knows what's going to happen?
Oh yeah, it's going to be a good game.
So they've been, I think, in terms of undefeated teams, they've been one of the better stories in the country because no one thought they'd be 7-0.
Problem with them, people don't know any of their players.
Yeah. I mean, they got a quarterback who who's pretty good.
Wasn't even supposed to be the starter actually coming into the year. They actually thought that he would end up being replaced because he wasn't quote unquote consistent enough. Well, how is 7-0 for consistency? And they can really run the ball too.
Yeah.
Hod Thomas is having a great year. So, I mean, the American Conference, they're going to sort themselves out somehow.
Yeah.
So
it's a very top heavy.
Exactly.
So
we go now. Number 2 is Utah.
Right.
The Utes. We actually had our friend Nick Dorman. He said that they were going to go 10-2, and we kind of just laughed at him.
Right. Yeah.
We thought they'd be all right, but they're playing some good football now. I'm starting to after last week, you question will they be able to rebound following such a tough loss. I mean, they honestly got destroyed. He threw 5 interceptions in the game. You just don't come back from that like nothing.
I mean, I was never really high on Utah because the Oregon win at the time, it was big. They won by 42. But you play Cal and you get 5 interceptions, and you still had to get a fourth quarter stand.
At home as well.
And then, and the reason why I never bought Utah was because of the quarterback, Travis Wilson. He is an up and down quarterback as you can find in the country. And he was really down last week, and,
That's what the Pac-12 basically is.
Yeah.
Your quarterback's either playing really good or playing really
bad.
Now,
they've got a good running back, and their defense is physical.
I think he's one of the best running backs in the country. I mean, he should be inside the Heisman race, or at least talked about.
But I never thought that, when we get to December, we'd be talking about Utah playing in the college football championship or the playoff. So it's been a good story. Whittingham, I think that's his alma mater. He's done a good job.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of, like, when they first entered the Pac-12, many people thought that they were probably done.
Yeah.
And they didn't really perform great. I mean, last year they showed signs, but I don't think anyone thought we would see.
Yeah, they're they started like 7-0, I think, or something like that.
I think they're 6-1, or they're 7-1, either one. But I mean, they're right in the middle of that Pac-12 South.
So
so I think
they got a month of football, and the way they still got to play UCLA, correct or no?
Yes, they still do. They haven't played UCLA.
Okay, but you see, they don't have to get Stanford, who's become the best team. The only way they'd play Stanford would be
Pac-12
championship game. So I think when we, as the season plays, I think Utah will make the Pac-12 championship game, but I don't think they'll be a playoff team.
It depends. If they harp on this loss, then no, I'd take UCLA to get in there, because I don't care. No, USC's not making it. They destroy themselves way too much early in the season. But I think I think Utah's going to be fine. I mean, they got a good enough running game, and I think Wilson is a good enough player. He's not consistent, but he's at least good enough to probably get him to the Pac-12 championship game. So another surprise team. We go back to the American, Memphis.
Right.
This was a team that we kind of knew could have been good, but we didn't really think they'd be this good. I mean, I remember when I was reading through their schedule, and I made the prediction that I think I had them going 10-2, and I kind of said to myself, boy, that seems a little high for this football team. But I mean, we're looking right now. If they went out, they have Ole Miss on their scheduled as a win, and then we saw today they were, according to the FPI, their strength of their record is actually 8th in the entire country. So, I mean, we could be talking about them slipping into the playoff if they do just enough to get in there. Now, I don't see it happening.
Yeah, no.
But
there's a lot of good things going for them. They have the Ole Miss win. If Ole Miss wins out, Ole Miss plays for the SEC championship game, because that means they would have beaten Alabama, LSU, the top two teams in the West.
And
they also got to play Houston, who, whenever they play them, could be undefeated. Yes. They got to play Temple, who they could be undefeated. So they could have really 3 quality wins on the schedule.
And Cincinnati, I count that as a solid win.
So they've got a good quarterback. The kid can make every throw.
I like him very much.
And they ended last year. They won like 10 straight to finish the season or something like that. And they just picked up to start the year. Justin Fuente's done a great job with Memphis.
Amazing. The start that he had there was, they were terrible. His first couple of years there, they said he was that close to being fired. And now look, he could have them playing for the playoff.
Yeah, I mean, and they're really fun to watch because they can sling it around. Their defense is somewhat suspect, but that's a glaring hole in college football now. There's a lot of suspect defenses on really good teams. We'll get to that when we talk like the Big 12. But I enjoy watching them play. And I'm pulling for them. And I hope they make it interesting. Do I think they're one of the 4 best teams in the country? Absolutely not.
I don't think they are if they go undefeated. I think a one-loss SEC, I mean, easily better than that.
Yeah.
One-loss Clemson team, I'd even say, was better
than
that. But yeah, I think they're definitely making that program into something. And they could be setting themselves up to where if one of these conferences want to expand, like the Big 12 or the ACC, we could end up bringing them in there.
Exactly.
Before too long. So another one that we have, Iowa. This is one that, I mean, you sort of could have seen, I guess, Iowa's had this type of success before, but not from being the average team that they had been these last couple of years, 7-5 every year, to now all of a sudden, I mean, they were saying Kirk Ferentz was done. He's getting too old, time to retire. Now he's got this team where, I mean, if they keep winning, I mean, they could easily make the playoff because, I mean, they're on fire right now. I think eventually they'll come back down to earth just a little bit, but I still think this team is really good. They got a great running back in Jordan Canzeri. So, what do you think about the Hawkeyes?
I mean, they've it's been like 6 years since they've tasted this kind of success, but they said coming in, that they've changed some things. They kind of got up with the new era of college football, and they're a solid. They're what I think about when I watch a Big Ten team. They're going to run the football, and they're going to play pretty good defense.
Yeah, they play absolutely boring football.
Yeah.
But they're going to win games. I
Yeah.
mean, they keep every game close. That's one thing that kind of scares you about them, is that they're going to let those teams that probably shouldn't hang around. Like this game against Maryland this weekend. They will probably let them hang around most of the ball game, but they will find a way to win. They play smash mouth football. They're going to run the ball down your throat, and they're going to play good defense. That's what they want to do. They are not going to sit there and run the score up on you.
Yeah, I think they'll make the Big Ten title game. I don't think it matters because whoever comes out of the other side, whether it's Ohio State, Michigan State, or Michigan, they're above and beyond a better football team than Iowa. But
it might be even worse than last year.
Yeah, they've been a really good story. Their quarterback transferred to an conference
and
team.
They're better without him.
Yeah.
Like, he's not playing that great, but C.J. Beathard's playing. He's playing pretty good.
So yeah, they've
worked out for them.
They're 10th in the country. In this.
Yeah, they're ranked 10th. I mean, the only thing is that do they have any signature wins? I'm trying to think about their schedule.
I mean, they won at Northwestern by 30 when Northwestern was still ranked.
That's about it.
They did beat Pitt. Who's 6-2.
Yeah.
So
that's true. Where was that game? Was that game in Pitt or was that?
I think it was in Iowa.
Was it in Iowa?
Yeah.
I think, yeah. So, still a good win, though. All right, so the last team we're going to talk about for the surprise teams is Florida. Now, this was a team that was looking as if, they were going to win the SEC East, no problem. They were they were going to give whoever made the SEC championship game, probably Alabama, a run for their money. I thought, honestly, they were going to be one of the 4 best teams within college football by the time we sat here and talked about it.
Right.
But Will Grier gets in trouble.
Yeah.
And now the script is kind of flipped. Treon Harris is in there. Totally different offense. Treon Harris is not a great quarterback. I'm going to be really honest with you. I don't think he's that good. Not to play in the SEC. He's not an SEC quarterback. But, they're still one of the surprise teams. They're still ranked 11th in the country, and if they win against Georgia, they're going to be right where they need to be to win the SEC East. If they beat Georgia, I think it's over. I think they win the SEC East. But what do you think about the Gators to this point in the season? Jim McElwain doing?
He's way ahead of schedule.
Yeah.
And what they did with Will Grier was awesome because his offensive line
was terrible.
Is awful. I remember watching the Tennessee game, and he was in the shotgun and was taking a 3-step drop and was still getting pounded.
I'm telling you, we literally said to each other during that game, he would probably be in a neck brace or a sling after the game because he got destroyed every time he dropped back to throw.
But, the thing about, you don't like Treon Harris. I kind of like him because he's mobile, which helps that patchwork offensive line. But the good thing is they've got a great defense thanks to Will Muschamp. They've got a great secondary. They got a front 4. They got linebackers. And they can run the football, control the clock. And, so all they asked Treon Harris to do against LSU was don't turn the football over and make plays. And they only lost the game by 7.
Okay.
So, Georgia's always a big game, I think they'll make the SEC East or the SEC championship game. Not really because I think they're that great. I think who they all have to play after Georgia just isn't as tough. But I really like Jim McElwain. I respect what he's done in year 1, and he's not making excuses for what Will Grier did. He's like, look, we're going to move on without him. That's what they got to do. So they're a really good football team. And like I said, whoever they play, they're going to play them tough. They're going to give them 60 minutes of quality football. So
I respect that. I just think with Harris,
his arm's not as good as Grier, but he's more mobile. So
they need
that
a
adds a different
quarterback.
engagement.
We've seen what we went from having Tebow, who was, he could run. He was a primarily run first quarterback, but since Urban Meyer left, they have had 2 quarterbacks that have been mobile that we've seen play extensive time. Like they played Murphy and he wasn't really that good. Skylar Morningwig was terrible. He didn't even count as a quarterback, I think. But you had Driscoll, who could run, was terrible because his arm strength was weak. And I think it's the same thing with Harris. He can run, But his arm strength is just that bad. And in a pro-style offense like they want to run with McElwain, you have to have a strong arm. You look at the quarterbacks that he had when he coached at Alabama.
Right.
He had, I believe he was there for McElroy, wasn't he?
Yes.
He was there for McElroy, and he was there for part of McCarron's tenure. Both of them could throw the ball if needed, and they had massive arms. That is exactly what Greer was. And now that that's taken away, I don't know. Because you say they can run the football, but what happens, because Georgia might be able to do it, what if they take away the run? You are forced to pass. Now, part of it is they don't have any wide receivers that are that great. None of them are superstars like they were supposed to be. So that doesn't help them. But I don't know. I don't think Harris is the guy at quarterback. My thing is if Greer, we know he's going to miss the rest of this year. Mm-hmm. If he doesn't miss next year, I mean, there is no way you can start Treon Harris over next year. There's no way that you can do that. So from there, we started out on the positive note. Just a couple other teams that we've found that were surprise teams. We named 10 of them. We had North Carolina, but we're going to do our own thing on that. We had Pittsburgh in there as well. Toledo having a pretty surprising year. Houston, and another team that was ahead of schedule, Michigan, who's playing some really good football. So now we move on to the disappointing teams. We're going to try to go a little faster with this because we have a lot of these disappointments. Right. So I think we're going to start with the least disastrous, I guess you could call it, which I think is Oregon. They're the least disastrous just because they're 5-3, and the rest of these teams are pretty much terrible. I mean, but we knew coming into the season they would have a quarterback battle. Adams won it. Didn't really, I mean, he had an injury, but I just don't think they felt they were playing all that great. They took him out. They put in Lockie. He played supposedly terrible. They were that bad that they actually had to put in Taylor Ali at quarterback, which is, I believe, a walk-on. He wasn't even recruited. So, I mean, I don't. They're not in a good situation out there. Right. Their defense is terrible. Their defense has been terrible since Aliotti left. So I think what we should do with this is maybe tell how bad of a situation they're in.
I mean, they got one thing going for them, and that's that they still have the best uniforms in the country.
That's right. You know, all those uniform combinations, 0 national championships.
Their offensive line, I mean, straight up, they've gotten their butt beat in the trenches on both sides of the football. Yeah. The quarterback, Adams, I think was severely overhyped. I know what he did in the 2 games against FBS opponents when he was at Eastern Washington, but you're going up against really good quality competition. So the inconsistency at the quarterbacks plagued them. They have no defense.
Yeah, I mean, Eastern Washington's defense is better than their defense, and that's saying something.
And it's not that they can't run the football. It's just they can't run inside, and on the defensive line they just get manhandled. So
they got one guy that's good, and I don't even think he's that good. In Buckner, Forrest Buckner, he's a good player. Same thing with Eric Armstead. Never got where they saw in that kid. He was a disappointment to me from what he was supposed to be.
So 5-3, for that to be a disappointment says how far Oregon has come.
Yeah, that used to be a normal thing for them. So I'd agree. I think maybe this is a 1 or 2 year thing. I mean, we know they've got the recruiting to get this done. Yeah. I mean, they've got quarterbacks coming in. They got Mahalik. They got a dude coming in this year. I don't remember what his last name is. He changed it in the middle of the recruiting process or something like that. So they've got the recruiting going right now. So I think they'll be fine. As for the rest of this year, I think they're lucky if they finish 7-5. They struggle that bad. You're right. They can't run inside, and the problem with them is they have so many running backs that they take away momentum because they got to switch them. They got 5 or 6 dudes that can run the football. The wide receiving core, which has never really been great, it's somehow even worse this year. They don't have any great receivers this year, or anyone that can even really help any of their quarterbacks. I think Adams is I mean, they've had the most success with him. I mean, they almost beat Michigan State with him. So I think that would be the guy they have to go to at this point. But yeah, I don't think they're going to have a great year, but I think they'll be back relatively quickly. The next one, I'd say it's Auburn.
Yeah.
Because I don't think they're as in as deep as some of these other teams are. I mean, look, Auburn, we know they're going to recruit. We've seen this storyline before. They win a national championship going 3-9. It's apparently all over. They fired Gene Chizik, which we thank you because we are greatly appreciating him at Chapel Hill right now. Thanks for being terrible. And then you bring in Gus Malzahn and like that is right back. So, I mean, look, coming into the year, I was one of the ones that hyped Johnson. I thought he was going to be good. I will own that. He is terrible. I think he's their 4-string quarterback now. I think they literally demoted him this week behind the bench itself. I mean, dude, they're a disaster. Yeah. They got no quarterback. Their running game has been, I mean, this is the worst running game I've seen from them in a long, long time. Like, they cannot run the football effectively at all. Yeah. They have no receiving threats down the field. I mean,
yeah, because Duke Williams finally got booted out. So.
I mean, I guess he just didn't want to play because they gave him multiple chances, and he just quit. Their defense,
it wasn't the improvement we expected with Will Muschamp. He was supposed to come in.
Now, I think the expectations were a little high. I mean, there were literally people thinking that defense would be the best defense in the country. But, yeah, I admit I had them in the playoff, and they've been an absolute disaster. So what do you think? Do you think how bad do you think Auburn is right now?
I mean, realistically, they're what 4-3, so like they've won more than they've lost. But
it doesn't seem like it. It feels like they're 2-5 or something. I mean,
on the Plains, that's not enough. They demand championships. I think that Johnson's confidence got shook, with the 3-interception game in the opener. And it just, spiraled. And, like I said, they don't really have a running back, because they lost Artis Payne and all that, all the running production.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I still think, talent-wise, they're as talented as any team in college football.
I mean, they have one of the deepest backfields in the country.
But,
they just can't get anyone to work out.
The problem is I think there's no confidence, and I'm not going to blame Malzahn or anything. A lot of it falls on your players thinking you got to have the inner belief that, hey, we can go here and win. I mean, the Auburn game where when they played LSU, they looked scared of Leonard Fournette, and I understand.
They looked scared in the game against Mississippi State.
Yeah. So,
I mean,
I think they'll, reach a bowl game But, for a team that was preseason ranked, 6th in the country, I had them as a playoff contender. I bought the Jeremy Johnson hype and everything, too.
I thought he was pretty good. I didn't think he was going to be better than Cam Newton. That talk's a little nuts. But, I mean, you said it. I think they need to move one of their corners to quarterback again or something.
Yeah.
They got to find someone that can run. I mean, literally, if you can find someone that can take a snap and hand the ball off or become that read option threat, I don't know why you wouldn't do it. I mean, do something like Rutgers used to have. You remember Jeremy Deering used to do stuff like that, and they were effective. So, I mean, I think that's what they got to do because, I mean, I don't think they're in any sort of trouble. I mean, they always recruit great. They're going to be perfectly fine. It's just, I think it's one of those years. If they find a quarterback, and I'm telling you, Sean White's not the guy.
Yeah,
no, I'm sorry. No. He just doesn't fit what they need. They'll be fine down the road. From there, I'd say Tennessee's next. If you look at a long-term perspective, this year hasn't really been that great. I mean, we know they get to the fourth quarter,
and they just.
I guess they think it's hockey. There's only three quarters.
They've blown like 3 fourth-quarter leads or something like that. Like
terrible. And the game against Oklahoma, they had that game won and just gave it to them. Florida, I'm pretty sure Butch Jones literally went over to the sideline and handed Jim McElwain the W. Because, they gave that game up. They should have won that game.
Yeah, it
was embarrassing. But, Joshua Dobbs is not anywhere close to the guy. that is going to take them where they need to go.
No.
He
can't throw the football.
I think they should take him out of the starting job right now. They need to find the guy for their future now so that they can have success down the road.
Well, I think they should just run the football 45 times with Hurd and the other guy.
Hurd and Kamara, those two. I'm telling you, Hurd, if he gets the football, he is up there with Fournette and Henry.
Yeah. I mean,
he's right there.
All I'm going to say is, we're talking about Tennessee being a disappointment. I know they blew, that Alabama came back and won. They were leading Alabama in the fourth quarter in Tuscaloosa. So they've got they've got the talent, but, you have, a 14-point lead against Oklahoma.
17. That was 17.
17.
Yeah.
And that was, they blew that in less than 10 minutes or something like that.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Florida, they were up 14? What, 28-14 or something?
Yeah, they were leading. We said that game was over. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was nuts.
So they've been competitive in every game, but Joshua Dobbs can't close it, and look, the defense has to get stops, and they got to be able to run the football in the fourth quarter. They're still a really good football team. I said going into the year they were still 1 year away, and I think this is something that'll happen to them because before you learn how to win, you learn how to lose, and so next year, pretty much everyone's coming back again because they're still that young.
Yeah, they really are that young. Yeah,
but I'm not one of those who thinks Butch Jones should be on the hot seat or anything. 3-4 is not good in Rocky Top, but it could be worse. They play. Who do they play this week? Kentucky.
Yeah. So, they should win that game. This is all I'm gonna say with his job status. I don't think he's the man to get it done. And I'm going to tell you, if they don't make a bowl game, I think he's got to be at least looked at extremely hard as to possibly be gone. Right. If you miss a bowl game, people were expecting you to win the SEC East. I don't think you should have won the SEC East.
Man.
I picked Georgia, and I think Georgia would have won it if what happened to Nick Chubb.
Right.
They would have won it. But I think you're right. You look at their recruiting; they are trending in the right direction.
Yeah.
Are they not don't they have the third-rated recruiting classes for 2016? They're somewhere up near the top.
And what they bring in this year, 33 recruits or something like that.
I was like, where are you getting all these scholarships from? What are you stealing them from USC? That doesn't have any.
Yeah,
I was like, what in the world? But yeah, they're bringing in
they're loaded.
Some freaks, and you're right. They are extremely young. If they can move on and find a quarterback, they'll be fine because they have two running backs that ain't going to stop running. They'll run right through you.
Yeah.
They have the wide receiver talent.
Yeah.
They really do. They have the defensive talent. Now, I will give them this. They have had some injuries to that team that is just devastating them. I believe they said they had, when we watched the Florida game, there were 5 guys on the defensive line that were injured or something. I'm like,
no
what?
Depth, man. Yeah.
Nothing.
All the depth
all that youth
is
sitting on the bench getting mended to,
Yeah.
Got a cast out there and everything. Yeah, it's pretty nuts. So from there, okay, Georgia Tech, it would be the next one. A team that was supposed to, make the playoff maybe as a buster. There were people that had them in there. I thought they were going to be pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Easily win the Coastal. I thought they were going to blow us all out pretty much. But they've really been. Before last week, if they would have lost that game, they were 2-6. That's it. They don't make a bowl game.
Yeah, pretty much. They got 1-4.
Now they're 3-5. You got the block kick, but here's the thing: people, I think, seem to forget how bad they really played this year. And we were talking about these guys just yesterday. I don't know where to start with this team.
Yeah,
about where they're struggling.
They started 2-0, averaging 68 points a game.
Yeah,
I know it was against lesser opponent, and then you go to Notre Dame, who was down to their second string quarterback. Their defense was kind of in flux and everything.
They nearly lost to Virginia at home.
Yeah.
Or no, that wasn't a home game. That was a road game. That's what I meant. Virginia.
They blew a 21-point lead to us, which we're not going to complain, but.
No, we'll take that, yeah.
But, the problem, with their offense, and I said it entering the season, they lost, 4 of their top 5 rushers, and their returning top rusher was their quarterback. So, and in that offense, you have to put in new backs at all those spots that Paul Johnson likes to use.
Yes.
It's going to have an effect. And, you saw like with us, like once you disrupt them on one possession, it can send that whole offense. Like they talk about how the spread can kind of just beat itself. Same with that offense.
Yeah.
Because they want to sit there and eat 6, 7, 8, 9 minutes off the clock, and I mean they were 3 and out against us, and they have absolutely no defense.
No, Lord, no.
They ain't stopping anybody.
No. Oh, they haven't stopped anyone all year.
So, like, I think they're, like the other teams we talked about, I think they're way better than their record says they are.
Yes.
I mean, I think, and it's not really the talent-wise because of the matchup problems that they give. I thought they would be like a 10-win football team. But, 3-5, I'm one of those, like, look, if they don't make a bowl game, Paul Johnson's got to be feeling some heat because they were unanimous. They were picked to win our division. Some people thought they could win the ACC. Some people thought they'd make the playoff and all that bull crap.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, that team has gone downhill over the last 4-5 years. Because I remember my first Tar Heel game that I went to, when we played them in our place, Josh Nesbitt was their quarterback. That was the year we were supposed to make the national championship, according to all the Tar Heel fans.
Right.
I don't know if we were going to make the national championship, but we were going to be pretty good. They were considered a powerhouse. They used to have that feel when you played them, you knew you were in trouble.
Yeah.
Now, they're getting to where they could be a laughingstock.
Yeah,
it's almost. I'm telling you.
Carolina's beating them 2 years in a row.
Yes.
Duke's beating them. Some bottom feeder programs, such one we used to be, they used to be our little big brother, we used to look up to them in football. A lot of teams have caught up to them, and I think a lot of it's that style. As much as it's a matchup problem, Navy, yeah, they win games, but 6-6, 7-5. Army, god awful.
Well, now Navy wins a decent amount of games.
Yeah, Air Force is.
Air Force. Yeah, they're hit and miss. Yeah, Army's terrible. Army can't even beat Fordham.
As much as it's hard to stop, they've been proven, 5 times this year. Hey, look, you stop it. Your defense ain't going to stop our offense.
It doesn't matter, even if you don't. Yeah, exactly. You could let them score on you, but you stop them once or twice, you're going to be fine because you're going to win the ball game.
Yeah.
Because they are just like Oregon. They are focused on just getting offense. They do not worry about the defensive side of the ball when it comes to recruiting, and that is going to kill you, especially in the ACC now with the way the ACC is starting to become, where it doesn't matter. There are teams that can run the football successfully. There are teams that can pass the football successfully. But they're going to find a way to win against you. Now, do I think they're a complete disaster? No. Paul Johnson, I'm going to be real honest with you. As a Tar Heel fan, I do not really like the man. He is not one of my favorite people. He has a very hard to get through personality. We saw him after the game against Florida State. I don't know what that face was, But other than that, the man never smiles. He looks miserable.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes people not like him. It's similar to Bill Belichick. But the dude, when he starts winning, they're hard to stop. That's the only thing. And I'm telling you, they need one thing in that offense. They need someone that can pass the football because Thomas cannot pass the football. Now, they had a guy, but Vad Lee, they didn't want to pass as much as he did. But you got to find someone that can pass it. If you find another guy like Josh Nesbitt, you'll be fine. Because I remember, couldn't stand him because he always used to kill us, but he was a great quarterback.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I don't think they're in too deep. So from there, boy, now we're getting into the disasters here. So I guess we go USC because they're not really too bad off now.
Yeah, we're talking about a team that's disappointment that, beat the number 3 team in the country last week by 18 at home.
You're not lying. But considering the expectations, once again, that's right, folks. 2 of my teams that were supposed to make the playoffs are done.
Yes.
Auburn and USC, disaster.
I loved USC entering the season. I
thought they were
Cody Kessler was...
And he's still playing good football.
Yeah.
The rest of that team is struggling, but Cody Kessler's still a good quarterback. He's playing good.
I think about USC, when I think about, they've got as much pure talent in terms of, they have so much talent, they don't even have to coach the talent.
It's true.
They're so loaded, but, when your coach has the off the field issues that started in camp, when he showed up to the fundraising event intoxicated.
Exactly. Yep.
I don't care what anyone says. From that day on, they were going to be done because they had. You're not going to tell me they had faith in Sark. For him to show up at something like that intoxicated,
you're right,
running his mouth.
I think they let it get to him a little too much, though. I mean, we know. Look, okay, I saw all the jokes on Twitter. Oh well, we've seen, there are people that always show up to these meetings drunk. My dad even made a joke like that, like, oh, there's plenty of coaches that probably show up drunk, but. I mean, dude, no offense. Okay, that's different if you're a coach at Bowling Green or something.
Yeah.
Okay, this is one of the most prestigious programs in the country. Your athletic director is on the selection committee. Now he's not. He just stepped down today. But you have to be a professional. If you did that at Notre Dame, oh, dude, they would disband you from the university. You would never be allowed anywhere near the campus again. So... I mean, the level of professionalism, I think you're right, disrupted them. But, I mean
like, their losses, I guess because it was at home, just Stanford looked bad.
Yeah.
But, Stanford's a top 10 team.
Yes.
On the road at USC the week after they got rid of Sark, they actually blew the game because they had a lead during the fourth quarter and got beat.
Yeah.
And then the other loss was to...
Who did they get beat by? I can't remember. They've kind of been put out of the light, They kind of pushed them out of the limelight. Was it a conference game? Or was it, Notre Dame now?
I just said that.
Oh, you said Notre Dame? You said USC, so I didn't know which one you were talking about.
You got
the
Notre Dame loss, you got the Stanford loss.
Who else did they play? They destroyed
Washington, lost to Washington at home.
That's all.
Yeah. So that loss looked bad, but
yeah, that's the worst one on this.
Now I'm a Clay Helton supporter. I think he deserves to be the head coach of that university.
And I thought Orgeron deserved to be the head coach, but you look at what he did when he came in there. I don't think they'll keep Clay Helton, but I'm gonna promise you this. You cannot reach that desperate level to where you got to get Chip Kelly. You got to wait for the right guy, because Chip Kelly's not the right guy.
No, desperate with them asking for Pete Carroll to come back.
I would not be shocked if they try to contact him. I bet you they already have had people that have tried to contact him. Now, he's not going to come back.
Yeah, no, because...
But, no, here's basically what I'm saying. Do not go in this offseason and say, okay, we're just going to take Chip Kelly. No. You look for the coach. You don't find him this year, you feel comfortable with keeping Clay Helton there until you find your guy. There will eventually be somebody. And I understand, okay, people will, why would Sark get hired there? He has ties to the university. That's kind of how these programs work. If you're a historical university,
they
you
also
want to have ties to the university.
They also wanted to bring back the glory days, and he was the offensive coordinator when Leinart, Bush, and Lindell White were all there just setting records in college football.
Exactly.
So I think there are certain times that's the best job in college football. I don't think, right now, is it the best job in college football?
The best available, clearly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's the best available.
No, Bama's the best job, for sure.
So, but I think they'll rally. I think they'll be a bowl.
Yeah.
They'll be a bowl team, and they'll give everyone a fight, but... like I said, I thought they were a playoff team and everything. So 4-3, especially at USC, 4-3 is completely unacceptable.
Yes.
But it wouldn't shock me next year if they went 10-2, 11-1.
The problem
they have the capability.
I'm sick and tired of hearing the excuses. And this is not from USC fans, because USC fans, I'm telling you, they are some of the best fans in the country, because they will tell you right out, and I'm talking about Southern Cal, not South Carolina. Okay, no.
Yeah.
They will tell you right out, this program is disappointing right now. ESPN will literally sit there and give you the same excuse. Well, they had the scholarships taken away from them.
No.
Wait until, now they've got it in the back. You just wait. Well, guess what? I'm waiting. You need to show me something. Okay? This clearly doesn't help recruiting. And the fact that before the season started, you actually had a quarterback transfer before he even got into camp.
Yeah.
And he left your team. So, I mean, I don't think they're in too bad a shape because, yeah, people always want to play for USC. I mean, why would you not? They're one of the most historical programs. They play in Los Angeles. But yeah, I mean, it's getting bad. It's getting to that point where UCLA is becoming a better destination than for football, and we never thought we'd reach that state. So from there, okay, now it's the two pretty much huge disasters here. I'm going to start with South Carolina, amazingly. I think they're less of a disaster. But South Carolina, okay, we know, okay, he didn't get fired. He stepped down. He retired. He quit.
He quit.
He
so
quit
we're going to talk halfway about them, then we're going to quit like, he did, because he's a great coach and everything, but he quit on his team.
We're going to stick through that because guess what? We're good people.
Yeah.
And I know all our Clemson, but they are watching this part and just dying.
Yeah.
So
he's a quitter.
He is. He really is. I mean, he just stopped in the middle of the year. Now, okay, you could listen to the things that he's probably telling people, and some of it makes sense. The team didn't respect him, and you could tell that even when they played us.
Yeah.
He talks to the players, and they don't care. They don't listen to him, which I think is absolute crap.
Yeah, it's ludicrous to not listen to Steve Spurrier.
The dude's one of the best coaches to ever coach in college football.
Yeah.
I mean, the dude's great, and you didn't want to listen to him.
I think the most disappointing thing out of all of that was like the reaction by South Carolina fans, because I think part of it, they pushed him out of the program. And I remember listening to Stephen A. Smith talk about this. It's one thing if he was like at, Alabama, Ohio State, Michigan, USC, Texas. He's in South Carolina, who before him,
disaster.
They'd won 10 games like one time.
Weren't they considered a basketball school before he came there, which is sad.
So for them to have that kind of attitude about we're gonna make Steve Spurrier leave because he's not cutting it was completely disrespectful.
Yeah.
I love it because I hate the program and everything, but I felt bad for him in that area, but
he shouldn't have quit on
it.
I understand both sides. It's hard.
You just don't wake up after, for you to say that you put it after you won a football game, that means your heart went into it all year. I mean, dude, you won a game, and that's when you said you knew it was time for you to go.
I mean, my thing was, before the season, he said, I am nowhere close to retiring.
He said he'd be there another 5 years.
Conference.
He said he'd be there another 5 years, at least.
And you didn't even last another 5 months. So, I don't get it. How do you just... And you're right, it's a day after a win. I've never quite woken up.
Yeah, no.
And just said to myself, you know what, I want to quit school. Or something like that, after I just got 100 on a test or something.
Yeah.
I don't... It makes no sense to me. But, again, he's one of the most historical coaches of all time. I don't understand the South Carolina fans' reaction. I mean, that would be like, and this would never happen, and I know that people would get on me for saying this, but let's say that Roy, or let's say the man 7 miles down the road for us, one day just woke up and said, you know what, I'm done.
Yeah.
In the middle. Do you actually think that the fans would come out and say, well, we didn't want Roy here. We didn't want Coach Krzyzewski here. We didn't want these people to coach our team.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, no.
And if you do...
Those guys they're like godlike figures.
Now, I'm not saying Spurrier's at that level, but he brought that program...
He was to that program.
They were a disaster.
Yeah.
To what they are today. Which was, people literally thought... I'm telling you, a couple of years ago, they thought they could win the national championship. Yeah. And now, it's sort of a disaster. And part of it, okay, it reflects on him. Okay, Connor Mitch wasn't that bad just because Connor Mitch couldn't play. Yeah. Okay, your coaching didn't really help him out. But, you look, their recruiting's gotten a lot worse these last couple of years. It's starting to go in a bad direction. I know when I saw their roster this year, they were just loaded with JUCOs, which I was like, that's not a Spurrier team. Yeah. That's usually a lot of depth with young kids. And, but I think they are going in the wrong direction. I don't know who's the right guy for that job. I don't know if there is a right person for that job at this point. There really isn't.
Yeah,
so... they could be a disaster waiting to happen, but still.
Let's move on.
So, now we move to the team that right now, I personally see them as the biggest disaster in college football. This job, and they were talking about this on College Football Live, they said this is the probably least wanted job in the country.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if that's true. The U. That's right. I'm telling you, Paul Feinbaum said right to Danny Cannell and Chris Cotter, and Cannell agreed with this, and Chris Cotter just kind of, he kind of just mumbles. But I love Chris Cotter because he lets them talk. He doesn't jump in. He said right out, UCF is a better job than Miami, and it's true.
And they're winless.
And
they're getting free beer in Orlando.
It's unbelievable to think that. But
there's a lot of things Miami's got to do, to get relevant.
I don't know what
first thing they need to do, they need an on-campus football stadium.
Yes. 45-minute drive to get to the stadium. For them.
Yeah.
That's no.
The thing with Al Golden was his style of coaching was never going to work at a place like that. Dude, that works at Temple.
Yeah,
Miami flat out, look, you've got to straight up have swag. You've got to be Joe Cool with these kids. You can't be there. You can't be a hard butt, put on your little suit and tie trying to coach a football game. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you got to have, a person that I think could have been successful. He just came to my mind, the Temple thing, Adazio, because you got to have someone, and I'm not saying he's going to get that job. I don't think he deserves that job. He shows the passion. He will yell. He will high-five his players. Al Golden, I'm going to come out in a suit and tie. I'm a professional. Okay, dude, that works at Temple, at Penn State, at Notre Dame. That's what they want. Now, Brian Kelly's not that at Notre Dame, which, personally I think is the best thing for them. They don't need a coach that's like that. That doesn't win football games anymore. You cannot be the classy dude that wants to handshake everyone before the game. Good job, good job. No, it's time to, you want to show out. And at Miami, dude, that's their brand. They come out and they want to make you look like you're a loser. They want to embarrass you because of how physical they are.
And, it wasn't like Miami didn't have talent. Miami will always get talent because they're Miami, but I felt like he restricted them from letting them be who they were.
Exactly.
He did not embrace the U.
No.
And when you coach there, dude, you got to embrace it.
That's everything.
Yeah. You got to be willing to put up with the players being celebrities and going to clubs and I know you're fretting over, another booster or something like that.
Yep, that's exactly what I was
going to say. But you know what? That's Miami. They don't care.
No.
As long as they win games.
Cheat.
Okay?
Because that's going to lose you games, clearly. But, you got to have, you're right, the best thing for Miami is to let their players have egos. Like we always talk about, especially at Carolina, we do not want you to think you're the best thing ever. And there are no players like that. But at Miami, no, you got to think you're the best thing that ever walked the face of this earth to play there. Now, when it comes to that coaching job, they've already said they're not going to hire Butch Davis back. And, okay, I am one of the people that love Butch Davis from Carolina, but I understand the Miami viewpoint. He had problems at Miami with sanctions. He had problems at North Carolina with sanctions. So that's probably a guy you want to stay away from. Now, the Randy Shannon bring-back campaign, I've heard people that are on that train. No, I don't think that makes any sense.
He was god-awful.
He wasn't any more successful than Golden.
Like when I think about who should get that job,
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I really don't.
They've rumored our guy Fedora because he's got the swag. He's got he's got the abs and he's gonna bring the fun up tempo offense and all that crap. The problem with them is they got to commit themselves as a university to making football a priority.
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like it's not a priority. Dude, you go to games, conference games.
No one there.
There's nobody there.
Stadium, and you're right, they need an on-campus stadium. But, you get the feel that no one's there.
But
recruiting is still high.
Sometimes, So I think they should have shut down the program like Sports Illustrated has called for them to do 2 times. But, they've got to make wholesale changes.
Yeah.
Because whenever Miami's good in college football is even better.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I don't. Yeah, and I think they'll be back, but it's gonna take 5 or 10 years.
Yeah.
It's gonna take a process. So now we're gonna quickly move on because we're running out of time here. To our 4 playoff teams. I'll just read mine off. I got LSU 1.
Mm-hmm.
They've done everything so far. They play in the SEC, and they're that good. Ohio State is 2. I think they're going to be impressive with Barrett in there now. 3 is Clemson. I think Clemson's being overlooked by a lot of people nationally. And I think that they just keep winning, they'll be fine. Florida State's going to be their key game. And TCU 4. And this was before last night. And last night they just backed it up.
Yeah.
So what are you for?
I got Ohio State 1.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll say that because, look, until someone beats them, like with Florida State last year, has it been pretty? No. There ain't no.
Yeah.
Number 2, I got LSU because they got the best running back in the country. They're in the SEC. They've beaten Auburn. They've beaten Mississippi State. They've beaten Florida.
Yeah.
They've got as good a resume as any team in the country. 3 is Clemson because they're about as close as an SEC team as ACC can provide.
Pretty close. Yeah.
And they got it all. They got a quarterback who can run and throw. They've got a running game outside of their quarterback.
You're right.
And they've got a really good defense.
Mm-hmm.
And then for TCU, I think they're going to emerge from the Big 12 with Baylor's quarterback be done for the year. I think they've got a great quarterback in Boykin. Their defense is starting to get healthy. They've got a great wide receiver. So we got the same 4 teams. We just see it in a different way.
You're right.
So,
okay. And we're not even going to really cap the Heisman. We know there's one guy.
Yeah, it's
Fournette.
It's Fournette.
So thank you guys for watching. We're going to hope to be doing this more. And if you like it, subscribe to our channel. You can follow me at Future Tar Heel on Twitter, and you can follow him at Future UNC Grad on Twitter. Thank you.